Unlock the secrets of franchising success with the Franchise Life podcast. Hosted by Stacie Shannon. Join us for expert insights, success stories, and practical tips every week. Subscribe now and take your franchise journey to the next level.
Hello and welcome to the Franchise Life. Today we are featuring a brand called Stand Strong Fencing. And with me, I have Anthony with Horsepower Brands who oversees franchise development for Stand Strong. Welcome, Anthony.
Thanks for having me, Stacie.
Yeah, all right. So I love fencing. I mean, I really didn't think that I would fall in love with a brand that focuses purely on fencing like I have over the past year or so. I've watched franchise owners' growth that have invested in fencing brands, and it is a quickly scalable business. So with Stand Strong, give us the high-level overview of what the brand is and what you focus on.
Sure. So Stand Strong Fencing does all things both residential and commercial fencing. So any material you can think of: wood, vinyl, steel, aluminum, Trex, chain link, wire fencing, you name it, we're doing it for both residential and commercial. We do offer some additional services as well, such as repairs, staining and sealing, and railings.
All right. So, I mean, I live in South Florida. I mean, this past, season, we got hit with multiple hurricanes. So, initially when I started thinking about fencing, I would think one and done, right? You put a fence up, you're done. That is absolutely not the case. Fences, they deteriorate, they need, rehabilitation, maybe to be painted again and so forth. And then you have damage to fences, you have new construction. I mean, there are so many different uses. And when I look all around me, there's fences everywhere. So when you have a prospect that is interested in Stand Strong, what, do they need experience in fencing? Do they need experience in construction? What kind of backgrounds are you looking for?
Yeah, so they absolutely do not need any home services or fencing experience. We out of 47 franchisees, I don't think any of them had any real fencing experience, and most of them didn't have any home service experience either. We've got franchisees from all different backgrounds: finance, sales, marketing. We've got engineers, you name it. At the end of the day, Stand Strong Fencing is really a sales and marketing company. We use 1099 subcontractors to do all the installation. So the focus is really on driving sales. So you want somebody, who is, I think, comfortable going out and getting involved in their community and building relationships. I think is a very important quality to have. Now, if the franchisee doesn't have that, skill set or desire, you could hire a strong general manager with our semi-involved model. And that general manager would be the one going out, doing some of those networking activities.
All right. So, I mean, obviously this is a product-based, it's service-based, but your product is the fence. And you mentioned, half a dozen or more different materials that clients can choose. So do you require any brick and mortar for this? Is it a home-based business model? And then do your owners have to keep stock for the different products that you offer?
Yeah, great question. So this is one of, I would say, the simpler brands in the horsepower portfolio. It's one of our subcontractor models, which actually doesn't require any real estate to get started. So you can actually work from home in the beginning. So you start with a general manager, a salesperson, and a pickup truck. That's really all you need to get going. So very simple, very easy to get started, very low overhead. The subcontractors, they have their own tools, their own trucks, their own equipment, their own license and insurance. So you don't need to worry about any of that stuff. Again, you're primarily focused on the sales side of the business.
And then how are owners finding those subcontractors?
So we have some amazing supplier partners. We're partnered with the three biggest fencing suppliers in the country. We also just did a big partnership with Home Depot recently. So we lean on our suppliers to help hook our franchisees up with some of the best subcontractors in their market. We also have other avenues of finding really good subs. Believe it or not, this is not like the restaurant industry and some other industries where it's hard finding, labor. There's actually a lot of people looking for work right now. You can even go on like Facebook Marketplace and do a search for, fences or fence installers near you, and you'll be surprised how many people pop up there. These are guys who actually, they're really good builders and they take a lot of pride in what they do, but they don't necessarily know how to build websites and do marketing and go out and run a business. So we're able to find, these really high quality subcontractors through these avenues and, give them full-time jobs and help them kind of grow their businesses alongside ours.
So does an installer need any specific background? What type of experience do these subcontractors have? I don't know if there's any specific certifications or what have you.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I mean, all subcontractors are not created equal, right? Some are better than others. So that is kind of a big focus of our training and support is helping them not just to find good subs, but helping them, teach them how to vet and qualify these subcontractors and actually getting them to commit to doing things the Stand Strong way. We have a certain, quality standards that we have. So we'll actually get them to sign agreements that say, we're only going to wear Stand Strong logos on the job site, and we're going to dig our holes a certain depth and put so many screws in each panel and clean up after ourselves. And then there's quality control procedures in place. So we teach the GM, the salesperson, how to go out towards the end of the job to actually inspect the fence to make sure it's up to our standards before letting those subcontractors go home. But those subs, they want to make you happy so that you call them back for another job and another job. So they do really good work. This is what they specialize in. We let them do what they do best, which is building fences. And then we can focus on what we do best, which is building relationships.
So sometimes, or I should say many times, when I am working with a candidate and they are evaluating a brand that has maybe a more seasonal aspect. So this is definitely you're working outside, right? Fencing is 100% exterior. How do you talk through a prospect who, let's say, lives in New Jersey or New York, where they're going to have that seasonal aspect to the business?
Yeah, so in all home services, there's going to be some seasonality. And it doesn't matter where you are. You can be in Florida or Texas or anywhere across the country. There's going to be some lulls around the holidays, around back to school and things like that. But there's just as much opportunity in those northern climates as there is anywhere else. If you're in a 3 or 4 territory market, which most of our franchisees are getting into, you're going to have just as many people, just as many homes, just as many fences that need to be replaced in your market as they will somewhere else. Now, if you're in a very, cold climate, there's a few markets across the country that you may not be able to build fences for certain periods of time in the winter, like, Minneapolis, Michigan, things like that. So what they do is, first off, sales never stops. You can always be out selling and building up your pipeline for the spring. There's a lot of networking opportunities in the winter, like home and garden shows. But one trick in those colder climates that we do is we'll actually go out and we kind of oversell leading up to the cold weather, and we'll collect deposits and we'll just put the posts in the ground. And then we can come back once the ground's frozen over and we can put the panels up and complete the job and collect the rest of the fees so that we're still doing revenue generating activities throughout the winter, even in those colder climates.
Awesome. All right. So looking at your website, you have what's called a virtual fence estimator. What is that?
One of the big competitive advantages that we have at Stand Strong Fencing is our software. We have a proprietary technology called Fence Flow. So Fence Flow allows you to basically go out and give an estimate right there in the field with the customer. You can design the fence with them through satellite images, and you can draw the fence on like an iPad or on your smartphone. But now we just launched version 2, which we're really excited about. It's got augmented reality and 3D imaging. So you can actually take a camera phone, you can walk the yard and you can drop pins in the backyard. It picks up real life measurements. Our software knows your material costs and it knows your labor costs, and you set your margin wherever you want. And then you can actually show the customer 3D images of exactly what each different type and style of fence is going to look like. It's so real life, Stacie, that when you're looking through your camera phone, you feel like you can walk right up and touch it. If you're looking at privacy fences, you want to see how much privacy it provides, you can actually have somebody go walk behind it and see how much of them you can see behind the fence. It's an incredible technology. And now we're actually working on making that customer facing so they can use aspects of fence flow without even having to meet with one of our sales reps. But it's an extremely powerful tool, not just a sales tool, but it's an all-in-one platform. It's your CRM system. It keeps track of your sales pipeline, all your customer information. It helps you order your materials and things of that nature. It's also a POS system. You can do your invoicing right through there, and it has built-in consumer financing options. So if the customer wants to pay monthly as opposed to paying up front, they'll have that option right there on the spot.
That is fascinating. It is just, oh my gosh, it's incredible what AI is doing these days. It's almost scary, but it's more fascinating to me than scary.
Yeah, this industry is unlike, roofing and painting and blinds and a lot of the other home services out there where there's not just, competition, but there's sophisticated competition. You're seeing nice websites, high-end marketing, a lot of technology being used. You're not seeing that in the fencing space yet. It's a very outdated industry. It's mostly small mom and pops, very fragmented, very unsophisticated. A lot of these fence companies, they don't even have websites, and they certainly don't have any technology that they're using. So that is definitely a nice perk for our franchisees to go out and, just, I think, provide more trust and credibility with the homeowner.
Oh, absolutely. And a huge differentiator. So you had mentioned, so when one of your owners secures a job, places the order, what does the process look like from that point on? Is the product dropped and shipped at the location? Are they transporting? Can you talk me through what that looks like?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, most of our franchisees are going to start off working from home. We set them up with local suppliers that we're partnered with, so they're going to get discounted pricing and other special treatment. And that allows them to order their materials per job. So traditionally how it works is when you go and you sell a job, you collect 50% of the revenue up front, and then you go and you schedule your subcontractors and you order your materials. Some of our suppliers actually deliver right to the job site, which is amazing. If not, the subcontractors will pick up the materials on their way. So you don't have to have any real estate or storage or anything. And then once the job is complete, you collect the rest of your payment, and then you pay out the subs, and then you pay out, for the materials. So it's the residential side of this is great for cash flow because you're collecting all of those fees really in full before you have to put out any dollars.
Whereas the commercial side of it is a little bit different.
Yeah, so some commercial work is just like residential. You can collect, deposits and everything. But there are bigger, bid jobs where you have to put out the money for the materials and the subcontractors. It may take you 30 or 60 days to get paid. So that's why we like to focus in the beginning on residential, because that's their steady day-to-day cash flow. Kind of get some experience under your belt, build up those cash reserves, and then you can start going after those bigger commercial projects.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is really, it's a very simplistic business model at the end of the day. Given all the heavy lifting that the subcontract crews do and the partners that are in place, and yeah, I love it. Okay, so let's deviate just slightly. You and I both have mentioned horsepower brands. I am a huge fan of horsepower brands because of all the support that is provided at a corporate level. So walk us through what Horsepower Brands is and ultimately means to one of your owners.
Yeah, so Horsepower Brands is our holding company. We've got about 20 different businesses under our umbrella. Half of them, 9 of them, are home service franchises, and the rest are what we call the Z services. These are shared services that we built to support our franchisees. So Horsepower has a recruiting company to help them with hiring. We have a marketing agency to do all their marketing for them. A call center picking up the phones, calling their leads back, and booking their appointments for them 7 days a week. We have a financial services company to do their accounting and bookkeeping, an IT company for tech support, fleet services if they need help sourcing vehicles. We even have a national accounts team now that are going out and doing big strategic partnerships with property management companies and referral partnerships with companies like ServPro. So there's just a tremendous amount of resources that you get, from Horsepower. And I'd say that's one of the big advantages. You're getting better services for a fraction of the price. Those businesses are not profit centers for us, but it helps the franchisees generate a lot more revenue, and we make it back on the royalties, and everybody wins. And we just have a tremendous amount of experience here at Horsepower. It's not your typical franchise company. There's just a ton of support. We've got about 100, I think over 150 employees now at the corporate headquarters in Omaha, Nebraska. We're going on about 400 franchisees and about 1,300 territories nationwide. And we get better and better every time we roll out a new brand. So Stand Strong has been really the most successful brand launch we've had yet in terms of first year growth. 47 franchisees and 170 territories in just over our first year of development. 35 of them are open already, and the validation is fantastic. So, my candidates, they get to meet a whole bunch of different franchisees throughout the process that they can talk to and learn from and ask questions just to make sure it's the right fit for them.
Well, congratulations on that. It's, again, I have on occasion, and these people usually aren't the best individuals to become franchise owners. But, on occasion, I'll get people say, well, I can go start a painting company. I can go start a fencing business. It's not rocket science, but everything you just highlighted, all of the support that is there, that is what makes Stand Strong and the franchise business so powerful. But Horsepower is unique in everything that you do offer from an umbrella standpoint or a holding company standpoint, as you put it. Okay, so this is a very, we've already mentioned, is very straightforward. Let's talk about the different ownership models, because that is very important for a potential investor to understand. You mentioned owner-operator, which is working in the business, your boots on the ground 40 hours a week, semi-involved. So what is the difference? And I'm going to say both from a time perspective, a responsibility perspective, and an investment perspective.
Sure. Yeah, so owner-operator is where the franchisee is essentially running the day-to-day themselves as the general manager. The general manager in this particular model is more of a sales manager because, like I said, it's a strong focus on sales. So that is, I would say, a full-time job. I would expect to put in, 40 hours a week. You're running the day-to-day of a business. But I would say that we prefer our owner-operators even to be working on the business, not so much in the business. It's an executive level model where you should be building a team and delegating responsibilities. We don't set our owners up where, they're wearing all the hats like all the other, fence companies out there that are unable to scale because of it. They're building a sales team out to go out and give estimates and build relationships and network. So I would say the focus of an owner operator is, running the day to day, helping a little bit on the sales side of the business, but more high level sales activities. We don't want our owner operators going out and knocking on doors trying to close one fence deal. We want them going out and going to their local chamber of commerce meetings and their BNI groups and, building relationships with other business owners in town. Think realtors, property managers, home builders, pool contractors, landscape companies, even animal rescue centers. You can build relationships with these other businesses that could just fuel you with leads, and referrals. And referrals are the best leads you can get. So that's a strong focus of ours at Horsepower in general, but Stand Strong as well, is not just waiting for us to book all your appointments for you, because we are very good. We've got a very strong marketing team and we will keep you very busy, but we want to create a culture of going out and going after it and, generating your own opportunities as well. Now on so as an owner operator, you only have to hire one other employee. It's a salesperson typically. They're going to be the ones going out and giving estimates and knocking on doors. So you, a salesperson, a pickup truck, that's it. As a semi-involved owner, you have to hire a GM and a salesperson. And then, I would expect even on a semi-involved ownership level to still be putting in probably 10 to 15 hours a week in the beginning. It's your business, right? The more involved you can be, the better. But that semi-involved model does allow you to keep your full-time job and your W-2 income. I would say it's about a 50-50 split. I've got about half owner operators, half semi-involved owners. It really depends on the situation you're in. Obviously, we love our owner operators. I do think if you can afford to go all in on the business and run the day-to-day and learn the business inside and out, even if it's just for the first, 6 to 12 months, I think that's ideal. But, I think there's something to be said for the semi-involved ownership model that kind of takes some of the pressure off of the business and off of the franchisee. They don't have to worry about paying themselves and making ends meet. They can just keep, all that money in the business and reinvest it back into the business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. Owner operator is the ideal, the optimal. But there are so many people out there that just, for whatever reason, cannot make a clean jump from the corporate role to the owner operator and being involved 100%. So I do like the semi-involved for those individuals that want to build something on the side and either the hopes of transitioning or, purely for diversification purposes. Okay, so let's talk item 19. So for our listeners, item 19 is where the brand is able to share some financial information. Of course, you cannot make any financial performance claims, but based on actuals from either corporate locations or your franchise owners, you can share. So, Anthony, what can you share with us from a ROI standpoint?
Yeah. So unfortunately, I don't have any franchisees who have been open, long enough to disclose their financials. So, but we do have a founding location. This all started in Nashville, Tennessee, with this guy, Eli Orenstein. So we acquired him and kind of built, added all the horsepower to it, all of our systems, processes, technology, marketing, and then we launched the franchise last October. So Eli's been open for a few years, and we provide his full P&L in our item 19. He runs a very modest operation. So right now, he's actually what we would consider an absentee owner. He works less than 5 hours a week. His focus has really been with us on the corporate team and Fence Flow version 2. He developed this proprietary technology himself. So he's basically like our in-house developer now, which is amazing. So he's been working on version 2 and very involved with our franchisees. So he has only 2 W-2 employees, a project manager, and a part-time sales rep that works 3 days a week. He has 1 crew of subcontractors. And with just that, in 2023, he did almost 1.7 million in sales. After we adjusted his numbers to show you what it would have looked like had he been a franchisee that whole year, pulling out royalties and such, he walked away with about 13.5% EBITDA, almost $230,000 as an absentee owner, working less than 5 hours a week, working from home with, a pickup truck, 2 W-2 employees. That's it. His project manager, I believe he pays him a base salary of $40,000. And the same commission that his salesperson gets. The salesperson's 100% commission. So he's got practically no overhead. Very simple, modest business, but he's doing very well. Now, he just recently added a yard and he started buying in bulk his materials, and we've seen a significant decrease in material costs from doing so. So that's kind of the bigger picture here with Stand Strong is you start off with this very simple business model with, very low overhead, and you really focus on just getting the sales off the ground. And then you have an opportunity to reinvest in the business, get yourself a little yard, and start ordering materials in bulk from our suppliers. And then you'll see a big jump in your margins at that point.
Wow, I didn't realize that latter part. That's interesting. I like that. So you had mentioned earlier that the majority of your owners have invested in 3, 4, or 5 territories. Why is that?
Yeah, so the average is about 3.5 territories per franchisee. So almost everybody starts with 3 or 4 territories. And I think it's because it really just, the numbers make sense, like the economics. You get a much better return on your investment, a better bang for your buck because Horsepower and Stand Strong, we offer significant discounts for doing multiple territories up front. So you get really big discounts on the franchise fees, and there's really no additional requirements to adding on those additional territories. So you still start off the same way, whether you do 1 territory or 5 territories, which is the most you can do. You're starting off still with that 1 pickup truck, 1 salesperson, 1 marketing budget, and you kind of scale into those territories from there. So it really just makes financial sense to get the best bang for your buck. Also, if you're going to be doing an SBA loan, we actually take a smaller deposit on your franchise fee. So out of pocket only costs you maybe $10,000 more to go from 1 territory to 3 territories if you're leveraging the SBA.
All right. Very interesting. I mean, I completely appreciate multi-territory investment. I'm all about scalability and growth and building a big business. So I definitely appreciate that. But thanks for sharing from Horsepower brand perspective. All right. So any last comments? The total investment range, and this is a single territory, is around 178,000 to right about 300,000. And one last thing I do want to touch on is you guys do front load some of those important line items for an entire 12-month period. So why don't you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah. So Horsepower, all of our brands, we set up our item 7 a little bit differently from most other franchise companies. I think from 30 feet away, it looks like we've got more fees, more stuff in there, but it's actually to our franchisees' advantage. So there's 3 big reasons why we have a few more items in our item 7 than you're probably used to seeing. Number 1, I think we're being more transparent. A lot of other franchises, they include the bare minimum, what's legally required. That's it, because it makes their investment look lower and they sell more franchises that way. We know from experience how important it is to start off with a really healthy budget. So we include everything under the sun, everything we can think of. Some of the items in our item 7, you actually probably won't need at all. And some of them are really overestimated. But again, we want to set our franchisees up for success, and we don't want there to be any surprises down the road. The second reason is going back to the SBA financing. I would say probably 80 to 90% of our franchisees leverage the SBA. By front loading more of your expenses into the item 7, you can take that to the bank when you go to get approved for your loan. And then you can pay for all those goods and services up front with the SBA funds. So now you don't have to go out of pocket for all that stuff. And it actually allows you to keep a lot more working capital in the business so you can scale faster. And then the third and final reason is going back to the Z services and all the support from Horsepower. We provide so many more services to our franchisees than other franchise companies. Instead of having to take on more overhead and payroll and hire people to do these tasks or outsource third parties and pay a premium, we do everything in-house. We're giving you those services for a fraction of the price, like our call center, like our marketing, like our accounting and bookkeeping services.
That That absolutely is a huge differentiator. And I own a franchise business myself, and being undercapitalized, anybody going into business ownership, that is one of the quickest ways to fail, is being undercapitalized. And so I do love that Horsepower does that. It is absolutely a different approach. And at a first glance, it does look like the investment is bigger, but there is sound and good and rational judgment behind, or rationale behind that. Okay, Anthony. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I, again, love the business model. I'm a big fan of Horsepower Brands, and it's been really exciting to see Stand Strong's growth over this past year. I mean, you have about 14 months of franchising under the belt, and you've awarded over 170 territories, with a majority of those open to today. So that is pretty phenomenal. So for anybody that is interested in learning more about Stand Strong Fencing, please feel free to reach out to me at Stacie@fusionfranchising.com. Thanks, and have a great day.
Thanks for listening. Subscribe for more on the franchise life.